All right, we should be live.
Okay, good.
So again, we'll give people just a couple minutes to
Okay.
find the stream. See, a couple people are tuned in now. We're going to give folks just a couple more minutes to find the stream, and then we'll kick it off over to Joe. All right, let's get it kicked off here. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This is the third installment of Joe's geologic history of Summit County. He's going to go over the last 30 million years of geologic history here. There's been two parts prior to this one. They're both posted on our Facebook as well as on our YouTube channel. So they can be accessed there at a later date. So Joe will talk more about it, but he's going to, detail some specific locations you can visit after, in the following days after this webinar. But I'll say it again at the end, but I just want to give a huge thanks to Joe Newhart for putting all the time and effort into this webinar, into these three webinars, actually. He just told me before we went live here that he's put 20 hours of work into this with the webinars as well as the prep work for it, putting together the PowerPoints and getting all the pictures and everything. So this is a huge amount of time that he has given to our organization. And it's something that's going to be online for a long time, for years to come, and it's a resource for many people to use. So people like Joe that, keep our organization running, and we're very thankful to have him on our side and coming back year after year. He's been doing this a lot longer than I've known what FDRD is. So thanks to Joe. And with that, I'll kick it over to our resident geologist, Joe Newhart.
Okay, thanks, Cam. Like Cam said, this is the third installment of what we've gone through the geologic history. So set this up kind of like a virtual field trip. But I've got a PowerPoint slideshow we'll go through. And then at your convenience, you can go out and go to these locations. I think the main thing I want to leave today with also is that hopefully next summer we'll be able to get out and go out to these locations together and put the geologic maps up on the side of the vehicles and talk about the rocks, how they got there and what they mean. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the last 30 million years of geologic history in Summit County, which spans almost 2 billion years. And we're going to just talk about the last 30 million years that kind of set up the county the way it is, the way we see it now, as with the mountains and the valleys. So I'll go ahead and open up this PowerPoint if I can find it. Share. You got me set up to share, Cam?
There it is.
Okay, hold on. Share screen. Can't find my PowerPoint. Hold on.
You may have to unshare that screen and then
close this one out. There we go. Here we go.
Perfect.
Slideshow from the beginning. Okay. Okay, here we go. So
Awesome.
we're going to talk about the last 30 million years. At the end of the last discussion, we talked about the formation of the Rocky Mountains during the Laramide mountain building event, and also the formation of the Colorado mineral belt. And one thing we want to start with is that when the mountains were formed 66 to about 45 million years ago, the Rocky Mountains in Colorado were only about 10,000 feet high. They weren't 14,000 footers that we see today. So we'll talk about how we get there as we go on today. So we're going to have this virtual field trip with 3 stops in Summit County. First stop, we're going to be up at Sapphire Point, at the part of the Sapphire Point where the picnic tables are located. And then the second stop will be at the kind of the Dillon overlook, as we're kind of on Highway 6, just as you're coming into Dillon. And then the third stop, we're going to be going over to Mayflower Gulch, which is over by past Copper Mountain and towards the Climax Mine. So here we are at Sapphire Point, looking over Lake Dillon and looking to the northeast with the Gore Range on the left and the Williams Fork Range on the right. And we're looking down the Blue River Valley. So we're going to talk about how the Blue River Valley formed. And that story starts about 28 million years ago, the formation of the Blue River Valley. So here's a cross section with the Gore Range, the Williams Fork Range, and the green is the Cretaceous marine shales that we talked about last time. And the formation of the Rocky Mountains, the Williams Fork Range thrust the Proterozoic rocks over Cretaceous rocks, reactivated the Gore Fault, which was active about 300 million years ago, and then we folded and faulted this Cretaceous section. So how did this valley get to where it is today? So if we look at the schematics here, they show the tectonic elements that during the evolution of the Laramide uplifts. You get these Precambrian rocks thrust up over the sedimentary section. This would be like looking at the Front Range today. And then you get a gravitational collapse because you oversteepened everything with this thrusting. And then you get some gravitational collapse, and then you get the filling in with some sediments that are eroded off the mountains. So the oldest sediments that we see in this extensional basins in our area is called the Troublesome Formation, and it's located up in Kremling and over in the Fraser River Valley, and it's been dated at slightly under the 28 million years. So this is the oldest sediments in these extensional basins. So that's the timing of starting them about 28 million years and going to about 11 million years ago with the formation of it. So here's a map showing the Colorado portion of the Rio Grande Rift, which is down in the San Luis Basin, and the other associated young basins. Look at the locations of the cross sections. We're going to look at them next. Cross section A prime is in the San Luis Basin. BB prime is the Arkansas River Valley, and then CC prime is right up in the Blue River Valley, what we see here, which is coming about Breckenridge up through Dillon and on up towards Kremling. So we'll look at these cross sections. So here is AA prime, the San Luis Valley. It's got a fairly thick sedimentary fill, probably about up to 5 kilometers of fill in the San Luis Basin. And it is clearly the northern extension of the Rio Grande Rift, which is predominant in New Mexico. The Arkansas River Valley here and the Blue River Valley right in here have thinner valley fill, and probably most probably the result of gravitational collapse of the oversteepened Laramide compressional event. So that's when we start seeing the Blue River Valley. It formed about 28 million years ago, and up to about 11 million years ago. And then we see another event that happens. And what that is, that next event is where we would see the uplift of the entire Colorado Plateau and the Western Great Plains. So we'll go on to the next slide. And that happened between starting about 10 million years ago and up to 6. So you had about a 4 million year period where everything tilted up. And this diagram shows the major interflues that we see between Cheyenne, the Palmer Divide, all the way down the Raton Divide. And then these are the modern gradients. And then we look at the paleo slope that was calculated for the Ogallala Formation. And the difference in these two, in that paleo slope and then the present slopes, indicates that this uplift from the west of about 1 to 2 kilometers, or 3,000 to 6,500 feet, happened. And we're going to talk about the timing of that, how we get to the timing of it, and then also some of the potential causal mechanisms for this uplift. Geologists have known about this tilting for over 100 years, but it's only been recently that we've been able to kind of figure out what some of the causal mechanisms that would cause this uplift to occur. About a river system shows some uplift and exhumation. This chart over here is apatite fission tract data, looking at uplift history. And then this is this other track set is looking at uranium, thorium, and helium cooling data. And both of these indicate that the upper Colorado River system was uplifted 5 to 10 million years ago, which makes this timing of this whole tilting event that raised the mountains up to the 14,000 foot, 15,000 foot level. So let's look at some potential causal mechanisms for that. Here's some recent studies have been postulating possible mechanisms for the uplift. This is a transect called the Colorado Rockies Experimental Seismic Transect. So looked at some seismic data to map the lower portion of the crust. They look at tomographic imaging, which is using earthquake data and building a model explaining the different arrival times. And what this indicates is that we got a low velocity pipe in the deep mantle, suggesting a lot of heat. This anomalous heat flow would have started with the foundering of the Farallon Plate and the Rio Grande Rift, which started about 30 million years ago. So the timing, why then, if this was the causal event, then why would you wait from 30 million years to 10 million years for this uplift? So the timing is a little off here, but still, we know we got this hot crust, so it'd be more buoyant, and it would want to rise up. So let's look at another potential mechanism, and this is called crustal hydration. And we're looking at some of the what we see as xenoliths, which are portions of rock that are covered, maybe deep crustal or even mantle rocks that get pulled up in with igneous activity. And we started looking at these minerals, and they've been hydrated with a lot of water. And the subduction, the flat subduction that started in the late Cretaceous would have brought a lot of water in and hydrated these minerals. And this hydration of the minerals causes a lower density of the minerals and a lower density of the crust, which would want to uplift on its own. But again, we got a timing issue. We would have started putting this water into the lower crust, starting about 66 million years ago in our area, going up to about 45 million years until the Farallon Plate would have started to sink into the mantle. So again, we got a little timing issue, but both, the heat in the lower crust and the hydration of the lower crust would allow this uplift, but the timing is a little bit off. So let's take one more look at this from a different viewpoint. Look at it from the standpoint of changes in plate tectonics. So this was going back to looking at the impingement of the East Pacific rise against this subduction margin. This is kind of looking at what California would look like. The impingement started about 20 million years ago. That started forming the San Andreas fault in California, and that continued on. But it really took off about 10 million years ago, which caused the extension of the Great Basin, which is western Utah and all of Nevada and easternmost part of California. That area has been extended probably about 100% in the last 10 million years, setting up the basin and range that we see mainly in Nevada. So the heat in the lower crust, the hydration would have contributed to wanting the crust to be more buoyant and uplift about 3,000 to 5,000 feet. But the continent was still in compression until you really started tearing open the Great Basin about 10 million years ago. So I think this is probably why it was allowed to pop up at that point in time to raise the mountains to the present day heights of where we got the 14,000 footers here in Colorado. Now we're going to kind of slide forward in time and talk about what kind of carved the shape of the mountains into the shape they are today, which was the glaciation event. And we'll take a look at that next. Here is a map of Colorado. The global climate started cooling about 2.6 million years ago, and it intensified about 900,000 years ago, resulting in glaciation around the world. We had 4 major episodes of continental glaciation in Canada and eastern part of North America during the Pleistocene. And then this map is from the Colorado Geological Survey, where they mapped the extent of where the glaciers were in the Rocky Mountains during the Pleistocene. So we'll take a look at what kind of happens when you start getting alpine glaciers in the mountains. So here in this slide on A, we show the mountains before glaciation. You get streams are cutting the valleys, and the valleys are all V-shaped. And then you start getting growth of fern banks, which fern is snow that doesn't melt from year to year, and start building small glaciers on the flanks on the mountains. And then you get a network of valley glaciers, and they start cutting downward and forming U-shaped valleys. And then after the glaciers disappear, you end up with a bunch of U-shaped valleys. You end up with some hanging valleys, and you get these arêtes, which are these sharp knife edge ridges, and you get cirques, which are the bowl shapes where the glaciers started up in the high parts of the mountains. So these are the type of landforms you see associated with alpine glaciation. So we're going to take a look here at our second stop 2. This is up on Highway 6, looking up over part of Dillon. And here is Buffalo Mountain, Red Mountain, and this classic U-shaped valley formed by a glacier. Now, if you hike up to South Willow Falls, you're hiking in the kind of the V-shaped valley that formed from the streams after the glaciers disappeared. But if you go up above South Willow Falls on the Gore Range Trail, you can see some glacial striations present along the valley walls above South Willow Falls. And then if you go down to the Willowbrook Trailhead, which would be kind of over in this general area, the first thing you see are huge blocks of granite that were carried by the glaciers and just dropped down in the glacial till when the glaciers receded. So that's kind of the landforms you see, but now let's just look at some of the geologic deposits that you see associated with this. We're going to take a look at a geologic map. It's going to kind of look at this general area right in here. So this is a portion of the geologic map, the Dillon Quadrangle. Here's I-70, exit 205. This is Highway 9 going up towards Kremling. This is the town of Silverthorne. So this illustrates the two phases of alpine glaciation that we clearly see in the Rocky Mountains. The Bull Lake glaciation is the older of the two, and then the youngest glaciation is Pinedale. Okay, and then also we see these other gravels down here. They're called the Mesa Cortina gravels that probably late Pliocene, early Pleistocene age. These gravels were mined for placer gold in the 1860s and 70s. You see that around the Salt Lake Trail system. You can see where the hillside was blasted out by hydraulic mining, and these gravels are exposed. It's possible that these gravels are deposits from one of the other early glacial periods that we see in North America, either equivalent to the Nebraskan or the Kansas. The Bull Lake is equal to the Illinoisan glaciation that we see over in the eastern United States. Pinedale equates to the Wisconsin glaciation. So we'll go to our third stop, which will drive over towards Copper Mountain and go up towards the Climax Mine, and we'll stop at the Mayflower Gulch. This is a topographic map of the Mayflower Gulch, of the expression of a glaciated valley on the topographic map. You get a well-defined cirque at the head wall of the valley, and a fairly flat valley floor with a more recent stream cutting into it. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a look at the same area on the geologic map. and this is it here. So here is the head wall cirque with all the old Proterozoic rocks exposed. And in the valley floor is the Pinedale glacial till. And you can look on the map, you can see the pattern. Here's the glacial till down here. And you don't see an end moraine here because the glacier made a turn to the northeast and made it all the way to Wheeler Flats at Copper Mountain. And then you see some younger landslide and talus deposits that have come down from the high sides, covering the Pinedale glacial till in the valley floor. And then here's the young stream is cut down into the glacial till and deposits some alluvium. So anyhow, that's what we wanted to cover today, looking at how the Blue River Valley was formed, the tilting and uplift of the Colorado Plateau and the western part of the Great Plains, and then the glaciation event that carved the mountains into their present form as we see them today, and the young deposits of gravels as a result of glaciation and landslide and alluvium from streams. So if you want to go on and see this is the diagram that was put together by at the University of Colorado Boulder, called an interactive geology project. And what they've done is they superimposed what the glaciers looked like during the height of the Pinedale glaciation about 20,000 years ago, but they put it on a present day base map. So you can see here's where Lake Dillon, of course. Oh, I want to go back. I'll get back there. Back, previous. Here's Lake Dillon. Of course, it wasn't there then. Here's I-70, Highway 6, Highway 9. Here's I-70 coming around here. So this would be Dillon, Silverthorne, and Frisco. This would be the Pinedale glaciers that came down into the valley out of the Gore Range. A big one came down off, around Buffalo Mountain and filled into the valley where the lake is today. So you can go to University of Colorado Boulder, UC Colorado.edu. You can find this geologic diagram there. And then for further reading, if you're interested, United States Geological Survey put out this circular in 2016, and it's got a good general discussion of what we covered in all three of our webinars. And it's, I think it's about 50 pages. It is out of print. I got the last batch of them a year ago and handed them out on our geology tours. But you can download it from the USGS website, or you could just, if you type in this, take it straight to it without having to hunt around on the USGS website for it. It's a nice little publication. Some of the diagrams I use, I've taken out of this publication, and so it's it even talks about the some of the mining history too, which is interesting to go over. So that kind of covers it for today. So if anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, go out and look at the rocks on your own. This last PowerPoint converted to a PDF, but I don't think it's on the website yet. Cam, it's going to probably be early next week before we get up on the website. Is that correct?
Yep. So I'm a little more technologically challenged than our marketing manager, Emily. But when she gets back in town early next week, she'll get it posted online, so you guys can click into this book, as well as that cool graphic that was just shown by Joe from CU Boulder. I really like that one, overlaid over the current county. But yeah, that'll get posted up on our website if you click into the description of this webinar for this date in our calendar section. But again, a huge thanks to Joe, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you're in this kind of mining geology mindset, we've got a mining tour on August 16th with Rick Haig. There's still, I believe, 4 spots available, so you can tune into, or you can sign up for that if you please. But as I said when I kicked off here, Joe's put a lot of time and effort into this, not just this year, but in many years prior. So we're very lucky to have Joe, as well as his wife Marcia, who have both given a large amount of time to our organization, and it does not go unnoticed. And we're very thankful to have you guys. So,
and like I said, next summer we'll try to get out and be able to go out in groups like we have in the past, and to be able to spend a little more time looking at the rocks, talking about them, looking at the geologic maps, looking at some of the posters I put together. Almost all of the slides I put together for these 3 webinars, I've taken things I put on the posters out and put them here in these documents. So, but not everything. So
I would absolutely, you got to stay positive, and next year we'll be back out there. And to anyone who hasn't been on Joe's geology tour, the auto tour, what he's put together here is incredible. But that's the next level, just because you get to be there and looking at exactly what he's talking about. So it's special. And when those do come back next year, I would urge you all to sign up. Yeah, I think that'll end it for us here today. Again, huge thanks to you, Joe, and we'll see you guys for the next webinar.
Okay, thanks a lot, Cam.
Yeah, you take care.